Juliet looks to Jack and tells him that she knows he's awake.
I know you're awake.
He's been listening and eavesdropping on them talk about him this entire time. I think Juliet may be done with him. With Jack's father dead, Claire on the island, and Claire's mother in a permanent coma, there is no way for Jack to find out about Aaron. Yet, when Kate questions Jack being around her son, Jack has a nasty and quick refute.
You're not even related to him.
Does he know that Claire is his sister?
You know he's family.
That Claire and Jack were related. He doesn't even know who Claire is. But he's overheard an allusion to her, and now Jack has threatened the stability of the family they've created. Jack is not safe for Aaron and Kate to be around. He leaves, ending their relationship on the same angry note they routinely found themselves repeating on the island. On the island, by the time Sawyer wakes up, Claire is gone for good. Miles confirms to Sawyer that he saw her walk away with somebody, but chose not to go after her because protective Sawyer had previously threatened him to stay away from Claire. Sawyer goes rushing out into the jungle, only to find the abandoned Aaron. Would Christian have left his grandchild here? Sawyer reaches down and grabs the baby, barely visible underneath the tall flora of the island. Claire is nowhere to be found. She's been loosened. It's not until the 11th hour of season 4 that we finally get a story about the fiercest driver of Lost's overarching plot. Despite being here since the first season, the show has waited to reveal one more story thread about John Locke's past. The one that shows us he's absolutely correct about everything. John Locke is born prematurely to his teenage mother. She wants to keep him, but ultimately chooses not to after he's held away from her at the hospital for several weeks following a premature birth. John's own mother turns away from him until later in his life. We know the older guy taking advantage of her right now, John's own father, will come back to enlist her help to con John later in his life. On the island, John, Ben, and Hurley look for the cabin. Hurley was the last to see it, but the three do not really have a clear direction where to go beyond Hurley's memory. They make camp, and while they sleep, John has a vision. It's Horace from the Dharma Initiative. He helped Ben and his father come to the island. And later, he's the only man Ben seemed to give any mind after he massacred the entire initiative, taking a moment to close his eyes and show him some level of respect. This isn't the first time John has met someone he doesn't know in a dream, previously meeting Echo's brother Yemi at an earlier moment. Or is it them? Horace is building the cabin. It was his place to get away. Like the reclusive leader of the island people and Jack, who struggles with being a leader, Horace too wished to get away from the people he led, the Dharma Initiative. A shared wish taken advantage of by Jacob after Horace died. He's like, nice cabin, dude. Mine now. John wakes up and suddenly he knows where to go. The Dharma Initiative mass grave. Ben has long been aware of John's connection to the island, a connection he envies. He can only look up with disappointed expectation when John finds the cabin's plans inside of Horace's jumpsuit. Of course he knew. The plans include the cabin's original location, a great place to start looking for it. John tells Hurley that he's free to leave since he knows where he's going finally, but Hurley states his intention to find the cabin with John.
I think I'll stick with you guys. This way?
Ben takes a moment to compliment John's manipulative skills, but John insists that's not who he is.
I'm not you.
After being absent for all season, we finally get a scene with Lost's seemingly immortal character, Richard Alpert. He visited John in his youth, wanting to test him. He tells young John he may be special, but Richard just wants to confirm. They've known about John for a very long time, and John has been gaming for years. Richard presents John with a series of objects and asks him to pick the thing that already belonged to him. A ritual no doubt inspired by similar ones used to seek the Dalai Lama's incarnation. Lil John doesn't really understand what Richard means by the object that already belonged to him, but John shows a level of knowledge of his future, drawing the black smoke, the monster. The other objects presented to John are the Book of Law, a comic book, a vial of sand, and a compass, which you'll soon figure out Richard believes to be the right answer. To the audience, the knife may feel like the right answer. John is the hunter. That is his future, and it's what John picks. But Richard quickly tells John that he chose wrong, ignoring his obvious insight and packing the items up and immediately leaving. The people running the place will insist this is because John made a mistake.
What did you do?
In high school, teenage John comes out of a locker he was just shoved into. Not wanting to make the bullies angry, John is sent to the guidance counselor's office, only for his anger to boil and fester. This adult seems to want what's best for John and tells him about a company from Portland doing exciting research. Previously, the others have used Portland as a location to hide their organization's operations. Perhaps the others are reaching out to John again. Perhaps this is an opportunity for him, yet John doesn't want to go. He's not interested in the academic sound of their work. He wants to be a tough guy. He wants to play sports. He wants to become a hunter. But he's told to accept that he's just a little nerd. You'll never kill a boar and feed people, John.
Don't tell me what I can't do.
John has always had a destiny, but his destiny has always pushed him to places that made him feel like he was being held back. The island is calling to him, yet he rejects it. His destiny is to become the hunter. He's right. We've seen it. Later, John has just had his back broken. Damn, tough episode for this guy. His father pushed him out a window when John threatened one of his schemes. John is defeated and at his lowest point. It's very depressing to watch him painfully push through his physical therapy, hopelessly fighting his paralysis. Except, he's visited by the representative of Charles Widmore, the one who will go to see Hurley and who with Naomi will assemble the freighter research team. Though John doesn't see it yet, this man is confident in John's destiny. I guess that means Widmore knows about John too. There's a lot of this story we have yet to be let in on. John has been watched his entire life. Ben wishes he could have this level of access. Imagine if he was watching you since the moment you were born. When you're a manipulator, that's information you can only dream about having. The cabin is a really interesting part of Lost's lore and one that confuses a lot of people. It's trippy as fuck, and between things moving around the room in season 3, the appearance of a ghost, and the cabin moving through the interior of the island's jungle, its presence really reminds me of the Evil Dead trilogy. The cabin in that series distorts and creaks as things fly across the room, and of course, like Lost, the Evil Dead series progresses like an insane progressive rock song, evolving as a trilogy throughout each film, beginning as a dark horror film to a horror comedy, and ultimately a time travel action adventure film which takes the fight against evil back into the Middle Ages. Like the Army of Darkness, Lost is about to go off the rails. Also, please watch Ash vs. Evil Dead. On the island, finally, John, Ben, and Hurley locate the cabin. John goes inside to talk to Jacob, but Jacob is not there. Instead, John meets Christian, Jack and Claire's father.
You know why I'm here?
Christian says he can speak for Jacob.
Yeah, sure. Do you?
Did you draw that, John? I'm here because I was chosen to be.
And John is a little nervous to see Claire there, but Claire seems to be a little different.
Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm with him.
She's comfortable sitting inside this dark cabin with her supposed dead father, who she never even learned died, and she doesn't even seem to care about Aaron. Where's Aaron? Claire doesn't care right now. It's a weird conversation, and we don't see the whole thing, but outside the cabin, right now, Hurley and Ben are hanging out. These are arguably Lost's two most diametrically opposed characters. Hurley's just eating a chocolate bar, and Ben looks to him, clearly hungry. Ben has kidnapped Hurley and his friends, and Hurley has had friends die as a result of Ben's orders. Hurley just saw a mass grave Ben created.
What happened to him? He did.
Yet still, Hurley gives Ben a piece of the chocolate bar. Maybe it's because of the tremendous loss Ben has just suffered, but more likely than not, it's because Hurley wants to do what makes him feel good. He's just that kind of guy. John exits the moving cabin the island itself helped him to find. He finally has instructions.
He wants us to move the island.
They can do that? I mean, the cabin's been moving all season. The cabin can be like a microcosm of the island, shifting in space. I already told you the polar bear and Ben got teleported. Why not the island? The figure John sees in season 3 was maybe Jacob or an imposter, and Christian's ghost, or is it Christian's ghost, confirms to John that he is not Jacob. He can only speak through Jacob, allegedly. Who's Jacob? We gotta meet him someday. His cabin moves all over the place, and apparently the island can move too? Hey, like Tears for Fears say in their best song ever, the Bad Man's song, "Faith Can Move Mountains." That's a Tears for Fears quote, not a Bible quote. Everything's connected, people.
Nothing like a controlled gas range out on the open sea.
Unlike most of Lost's multi-part finales, There's No Place Like Home actually has 2 separate directors. Part 1 was directed by Stephen Williams, and parts 2 and 3 was directed by Jack Bender. Then there was a 2-week gap between Part 1, which aired on May 15th, 2008, and parts 2 and 3, which aired on May 29th, 2008. The network had to make some extra room on the schedule to get this to work. They had to take the 2-week break for Ugly Betty to air. Like the finale episode for the first season, Exodus, There's No Place Like Home does not feature one character in particular. Exodus told the story of everyone's day prior to boarding Oceanic 815, and There's No Place Like Home follows their early adjustment to life and ultimately begins building momentum for their journey back to the island, a fitting bookend to their first visit. The episode begins in the open cockpit of a Coast Guard plane. The pilot holds a rabbit's foot for good luck, an image I always believed to be perfect for the show. In the back, Hurley, Jack's son, Kate, Saeed, and Aaron wait anxiously. Not Aaron, he doesn't know what's going on. A representative of Oceanic Airlines coaches them on the press conference they're about to be a part of. Corporate doesn't love the name, the Oceanic 6, but it's the one that has stuck with the press. Already from the start, we notice the fractious qualities of their relationship.
Okay, they'll think that we're in shock.
We are in shock, Jack.
I love how Matthew Fox describes the Oceanic 6 in an interview given with Entertainment Weekly prior to season 4. They're covering up something. That's an agreement they've all reached, and it's a gross, weird little bond that they have with each other. As the plane is landing, there's an opportunity to reprise the melody from the Rafts theme in season 1, though it's not played as a triumphant coming together of the group with every piece of the band blaring. It's a simpler, somber rendition as the characters, all in a complete state of shock, reunite with their families. It's more relieving than triumphant since they've only made it home with such an underlying cost. On the island leading up to this episode, the mercenary team has completely taken control of the freighter. Kimi needs to capture Benjamin Linus to get his full payment from Charles Widmore, and the captain is trying to get in the way of the brutality used to make that happen. Like the others, the captain did not sign up for what the mercenaries are doing. When Kimi learns Michael sold him out to Ben Linus, Kimi tries to shoot Michael, but the island isn't done with Michael yet, and the gun just won't fire. Direct intervention. Kimi prepares what he calls secondary protocols given to him by Charles Widmore, including strapping himself with a weird device and heading to the Orchid. We're realizing that Widmore knows everything about the island, and he's keeping the captain in the dark as to what Kimi is up to. The doctor hears the news that he's washed ashore dead. He doesn't really know what to do with that information.
But I'm the doctor.
Kimi quickly enacts a full mutiny, shooting the captain and slicing the doctor's throat when Frank refuses to fly the helicopter. His body will drift to shore and back through time. What didn't you understand about that, Doctor? Frank reluctantly agrees to take the squadron back to the island, but he makes sure to fly over the beach camp and drop a working satellite phone. This brief opportunity is the best time to start bringing people to the freighter. Saeed has already taken the Zodiac raft ahead of the captain being shot and starts ferrying people to the boat. John, Ben, and Hurley head to the Orchid station, unaware the mercenaries are ahead of them. Ben explains the Orchid is where you move the island. Stopping in the middle of a field, Ben takes a moment to signal his people that he's on the move, communicating with somebody behind the tree line with little mirrors, little light flashes. Daniel hears the term secondary protocol and searches through his notes. He gets nervous by the mention of the Orchid station and warns everyone of the imperative to get off the island. When comparing the Doctor to Daniel's experiment earlier in the season, you see that the island inconsistently affects time. Before, the ship's radar showed the package as being delivered 30 minutes before Faraday got it. But once the freighter hears news that the Doctor has washed ashore dead, he's still alive. They're in the past now. As we've seen, traveling to and from the island through anything but specific bearings can